Welcome to the Tokenized Economy. Here is today's explainer on safeguarding digital assets. All right, let's just dive right in. In the world of digital assets, we spend so much time talking about preventing security breaches, building up firewalls, setting up these complex governance rules. But have you ever stopped to ask, what happens when those defenses actually fail? What's the backup plan when things really go wrong?
Well, here's the thing. The top institutions, they start with a surprisingly blunt assumption. Failure isn't just a possibility, it's an inevitability. Something, somewhere, at some point is gonna break.
Now look, this isn't about being pessimistic, not at all. It's actually the very foundation for building a truly robust, multi-layered defense system. See, by preparing for the worst-case scenario right from the get-go, you can build a system that's not just secure, but actually resilient.
And when we say failure, you might be picturing some huge, dramatic hack, right? But it's often not that. Institutional systems are built to expect a whole range of issues. Core technology systems can go down, private keys can get lost or just become inaccessible, and hey, let's be honest, simple human error can lead to big operational mistakes.
So the first layer of this fortress isn't just a big, static wall. It's way smarter than that. Think of it more like a shock absorber, something with built-in resilience, baked right into the architecture of the system.
So what do we actually mean by resilience? Well, it's the system's power to keep assets safe and, just as important, accessible, even when some parts are offline or have been compromised. The main goal here is to get rid of any single point of failure.
One of the coolest techniques they use to do this is called Multi-Party Computation, or MPC. Think of it like this. Instead of one single master key, you take that key and you basically shatter it into a bunch of encrypted little pieces, or shares. Then you scatter those shares across totally different, isolated systems. To approve a transaction, you don't even need all the pieces, just a certain number of them, which is called a threshold.
And here's why that's so brilliant. Even if a hacker gets into one system or a server just dies, they don't get the whole key, not even close. It's still totally safe, and you can still authorize transactions with the shares you have left. Now, this is a little different from something like a multi-sig setup, which uses multiple distinct keys, but that core idea of shared responsibility is pretty similar.
All right, so that's the tech, the crypto side of things. But that's just layer one. Let's build on that and move to layer two, the human side of the equation, operational recovery.
This is basically the playbook for what if. It's all the procedures and the infrastructure that back up the fancy cryptography. We're talking about secure backups, all set for disaster recovery, having your infrastructure spread out all over the world so one local disaster can't take you down, constant 24/7 monitoring, and having meticulously documented plans for exactly what to do when something goes wrong.
You see how the tech and the human processes have to lock together, right? It's pretty amazing. But what if, in some truly terrible scenario, all of that still isn't enough? Well, that's where we get to the final layer of protection.
I mean, it's super unlikely, but if multiple, totally separate safeguards all fail at the same time, there is one last financial backstop, and that's insurance.
For instance, take a huge player like Coinbase Custody. To make sure their clients can sleep at night, they maintain a massive policy. We're talking $320 million in coverage.
But, and this is a really important but, you've got to understand exactly what that covers. It's a commercial crime policy, which means it's designed for very specific things, like somebody stealing assets from the outside or an employee committing fraud on the inside. And it's not just them. Another big name, BitGo, has also lined up some serious coverage for its clients, offering up to $250 million in insurance.
Again, this coverage is specifically for digital assets held in their qualified custody. And these policies, they're underwritten by the biggest names in the business, like Lloyd's of London. So you know it's legit. So you hear these huge numbers, and it sounds great, right? It provides a lot of confidence. But there's a really critical warning that comes with all this. Think of it like the architect's fine print on the entire security blueprint.
And if you remember one thing from all of this, let it be this. Insurance is not security. It is the absolute last resort, not the first line of defense. It can never, ever replace a fundamentally secure system design.
Real security, the kind that actually works, comes from the design of the entire system, from that clever, resilient architecture we talked about all the way to those detailed recovery plans. Insurance is just a financial safety net. It's conditional,
It's capped at a certain amount, and it is no substitute for getting security right in the first place.
So next time you're looking at institutional custody, don't just ask, is it secure? Ask if it's resilient. Ask the much, much better question. Was this system built not just to prevent failure, but to actually survive it?
That's our look inside institutional custody. Thanks so much for joining us.